Hello and welcome back to my craft room. It's time to have another play with my leftovers from the February Year in Stitches Quilt Club box from Stitch Kit. So my block for this month was this, upside down, this one, which I was very proud of. So we've got the snowball ones. These ones are called snowballs. They've all. This is all done with what they call the stitch and flip method. That's what we've been doing this month. And then these ones here are flying geese blocks. And in the middle, you can see some embroidery that I did just in the middle. I could have done it in the other snowball squares, but I decided just to do it in that centre one. They sent us. Everybody got different transfers. Everybody got different fabrics depending on their preferences. But I got these two embroidery transfers, and I'll keep hold of these because you can use them over and over. I've gone all blurry now. Woohoo! I've confused the camera. There we go. We're back. My block from January, the first month, was this one, which is called the Chained Star. So I learnt to do half square triangles. These are half square. No. Yeah, that's right. Half square triangles. Each month I'm finding that. So the idea with the Quilt Club, I won't go into it all again every time, but I'll link to the playlist so you can find out more if you'd like to. And of course I'll link to Stitch Kit as well. These boxes only cost £25, including postage and packing to the UK, which I think is incredible. Each month so far I've ended up with loads of leftovers. With the first month's leftovers I made this tote bag, which is all fully reversible with a pocket inside, and I made this fold out fabric caddy and a bookmark, and I've got a good handful of scraps there still. I'm going to keep all of my scraps and do one big scrappy quilt at the end of the year. So the idea is that each month we'll learn new techniques and new quilting patterns. We'll end up with 9 18.5-inch square blocks. I'm working in centimetres, I'm slightly smaller, and they will all stitch together into a big enough quilt to cover a double bed. So towards the end of the year we'll learn the sashing and binding and all of that to complete our quilts, and we'll all end up with a completely unique quilt because everyone's fabric will be different. How you choose to put your fabrics together will be different. Yeah, it's really, really fun. I'm so enjoying this. So with this month's leftovers, I've already made, I think I'll take you to the desk actually, it's going to be easier. I've already made this fabric bowl, which I loved. Now, when I showed the making of it before, I hadn't yet done the hand stitching, and I just think that hand stitching adds so much to it. I love the texture it gives it, and I think it just gives it a bit more structure and stability as well. I just love it. I'm so pleased with that. And of course, again, completely reversible and a really useful bowl to have. Cass made me a huge one like this. It's exactly the same kind of pattern. It doesn't really need a pattern. I showed it in the last video. You'll find it in the playlist. Enormous one, which I use all the time, and I think I'll find this one equally useful. I also used this. I linked to the ladies. I think she was called the Fabric Hut. I did link in the last video. I linked to the tutorial I followed. I had to adapt just a little bit to what I had left, but yeah, it was a very adaptable tutorial, really fun, and made this little hanging caddy, which will be useful for all kinds of things again. I know that next month the March box is already, it's going to be on the way to me in the next couple of days as I'm recording this. They've promised to get it to me as early as they can because I'm away for a lot of March. I've got all sorts going on, and so it'll give me a chance to get the video made so that it can go out when everybody's getting their boxes, which is the idea. So yeah, the idea is we're learning together. I am not an expert quilter, but my motto is if I can do it, you can do it. And the instructions that Rachel has been putting together are brilliant. So yeah, I've been so chuffed. I've never tried to do proper quilting before. I've had a go at various kinds of, I love to do Manx quilting. I love Kawandi. I've tried pajagi quilting. I think every culture has its kind of quilting. I've never tried to do what I call proper quilting, precise quilting. And what a buzz it is when all your points come together nicely. It's just like, oh. Anyway, so back to the leftovers. Because of all the triangles in this one, I ended up with a lot of leftover triangles kind of cut off. You trim them off. So back to the desk again. I have got some really tiny triangles from the flying geese. So when you make the snowballs, for instance, that's where these bigger triangles have come from. You start off with a square that size of the main colour. I started with the yellow square, and then I put this smaller print square over the top and stitched here corner to corner of the smaller square, and then trimmed. Now, if before trimming I'd have stitched another line 1/2 inch closer to this corner and then trimmed between, these two triangles would already be stitched together, which is a genius idea, which if I ever do this again, which I'm sure I will most definitely remember that tip. What a great idea. Why didn't I think of it myself? But anyway, I didn't. So I've ended up with these larger triangles from the snowball blocks or units. There's 9 units making up one block. I've ended up with these smaller, really dinky triangles from the flying geese. I've got some other small scraps in kind of random shapes and sizes. I've got some strips, and I've got some kind of larger pieces still left. So I've made those 2 projects, the bowl and the hanging caddy, and I've still got all of this left, as well as the block, the main project. So these pieces, I think I'm going to make a tissue holder, for putting one of these little mini packs of tissues in. And I'm going to follow along with a tutorial by C. Kate Sew. I will link to that for sure. I won't show the whole thing, but I'll show you little snippets of it and how it turns out, and I'll link to Kate's video. I think now these strips, some of them are quite long strips. I might want one to make a hanging loop, so I'll keep this one out. But these strips and these other random shapes I'm going to put in with my other scraps from month 1 now. And all of these I'm going to make into one big glorious crumb quilt or something at the end of the year. I think I'm going to end up not just with an amazing double bed size quilt, but also a whole pile of either gifts or things to put on a craft stall or put in my Etsy shop or whatever. Yeah, by the end of the year, I'm going to, and I will have learned so much along the way and really enjoyed doing it. I'm getting much more confident using the cutter and the sewing machine. This, though, is going to be quite a challenge doing these. This is to go with that. Doing these triangles. So these will be easy to sew together. I think I'm just going to go through and sew these together in pairs and make a lot of little small half square triangles. And maybe I can just make some coasters or something like that. We'll see. So that's my first job, and then I'm going to see if I can do the same thing with these. But you can see how dinky these are going to end up if I can manage it. Definitely going to need to get my little craft iron out. So okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be at the machine for a little while. I'll be back in a sec. So here we go. I've I've run all those through the machine. Ended up with one left over without a partner. I must have lost a yellow triangle somewhere. 18, 19. Well, if it turns out that I need 20, I'll cut a yellow piece as a partner for that one. I've got a feeling I might want a nice round 20. So what I'm going to do now is get my craft iron out and my mat and press all these and then trim them to, it looks like I'm up to get 5 centimetres square, just about, yeah. So they're all exactly the same size. And then we'll see where I go from there. I've trimmed up all my squares. They came out 4.5 centimetres in the end. About 1 3/4 inches. just because a couple of them were a bit small, and so I had to trim them all down to be the same. So now I've started playing around with different arrangements. I've decided I've still got 4 left over. I'll keep them because I can use them for another project. Because I decided it was easier to have a square and make a coaster, hopefully. Because by the time all the seams have come in, it will be a lot smaller than this. So yeah, lots of different patterns that I could do. I had a look online to look at different ways of arranging them. I just quite like the look of that. It's amazing how much variety you can get, actually. It's quite an interesting one because it sort of makes that star shape, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to go with that. That's my decision. So now I've got to sew them together into, I'll do rows across this way. I'll stitch these all together, press all the seams one way to the right. Then I'll stitch this row together, press all the seams to the left, this one, press them to the right, this one, press them to the left. Then I can do that nesting thing that we learned in the first month to stitch the rows together. Here we go, my rows are all stitched together and I've pressed them. These are gone, the seams have gone to the right, left, right, left. So now I'm hoping I can do the nesting thing and stitch the rows together. So this is where you just slide one across the other and you can feel them sort of lock into place when the seams match up, which should mean that my seams will be perfectly aligned, which will make me very happy. Let's put a pin there, and I don't think these are going to match up very well. I haven't done very well here. Don't understand why not. Yeah, look, those don't match. Look. I haven't been very accurate with my seam allowances, I guess. Oh, that's annoying. Oh well, I'll do the best I can. So I will now stitch all the rows together and then I'll come back and we'll see how I got on. Well, I've not done a great job at all of this. I suddenly ran out of thread and had to put some darker thread in, which is the only one I had a whole reel of. And that kind of shows there, and oh dear, my points aren't matching up very satisfyingly at all. Well, that's what I want, like that. But yeah, I've not done very well at all on this. I think it's a lot of it is because they were very small fiddly triangles to handle, and I don't have much experience yet. I have seen people on YouTube doing things with teeny triangles like this. It is possible. I'm certainly not going to be trying anything like this with these very small ones. I think what I'm going to do with these is similar to how I put these pieces together. I just applied them to a piece of the batting with a zigzag stitch, left the raw edges and everything, and that worked fine. So I think I'm going to do that with the small triangles. I've got to do something, I can't waste them. I think if I lay them out carefully on a piece of the batting with some of my, I'll use a fabric glue stick, just a little dot in the middle of each one to help hold them in place, and hopefully I'll be able to make a nice pattern of some kind, and I won't have to go around each triangle separately. I'll be able to do lines in between. Yeah, I'm going to do something like that. I will get something out of it. But I will use the same process I used to do this one. But with this, yeah, I think to try and retrieve this, it's come out, I'm going to trim it to a proper square again. I mean, like the overall look of it, if I didn't look at that too carefully, I would just think, oh, that's cute, you know. I'm going to trim it to a proper square, cut a piece of the batting the same size. And I think I'm going to try a bit radical this. I'm going to try just running a line of machine zigzag along all of the lines, because I think that will cover up my lack of precision. That's what I'm kind of hoping. And I've got this dark blue now in the machine, which I think will go okay. I'll need to put a piece of a backing of some kind on it. So I could decide to not do the tissue holder after all this time. I could save these pieces, do the tissue holder next time, and then I could use a piece of this to make the backing for this one. So I think it might be enough. That might be enough for this time. So yeah, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that and see how it goes, and I'll show you in a minute. I briefly considered the idea of hand stitching, because we have done hand stitching this month. I could get my embroidery threads out and do a hand stitch in between these drawings, but I think you'd still see the imperfections quite badly, and I don't want that. So, wish me luck, I'm going in. First thing is to trim this off to a square, then I'm going to put some wadding. So I could put this, then a layer of wadding, and then this that way round, and then quilt it. It's okay. All might yet be fine. Yeah, maybe when I look at it in the morning I won't mind it so much. I've put some strips of I've cut some strips, 5cm strips of this, which is what I've used on the back, and I'm going to do a binding with this, but I've now run out of thread in my machine, so I'm going to take this downstairs and do the binding by hand this evening, and I will come back in the morning and finish off this video by showing you what I've done, by showing you how this turned out. I think it'll be okay, it'll be usable, you know, not one of my faves. Sometimes when you look at things again fresh the next day, they don't look so bad, do they? Well, I'm feeling a lot happier with it this morning. I think that looks fine. It's not, obviously not traditional quilting, but I think that looks quite cute now. I think that binding has really set it off, finished it off nicely. And it was quite nice to have a practice at the binding, actually. I was quite pleased with how well that went, miter in the corners and everything. So that'll be handy for later stages. I might, maybe in one of the projects I do next month, I might show how I did the binding. I stitched it all on by hand because I did it yesterday evening. I didn't want to come back up to the machine, so then it was pretty quick to do. That one's done. That's just like a coaster or a mug rug or whatever. I had a few little pieces left over, so these really tiny triangles I'm not even going to try and stitch together. I've placed them very carefully on this little square. I'm going to zigzag across them. I've put some pale blue thread in my machine now, and then I'm going to add another leftover scrap on the back, perhaps a scrap of this, and turn this into a little mini pincushion. I've got this strip still. I'm going to fold that right sides together and stitch along there to make a tube, which will become a little hanging loop. So it's going to be attached to scissors or my craft bag or whatever. So I'll do that in a minute. Now with this one, this was kind of inspired by an idea I saw Kate So doing. To create a coaster. She was just using, was it 1-inch squares? Anyway, quite small squares. Mine have come out, I think they were 4 centimetres, so in inches, 1.5. So it's probably about the same as the ones that Kate was using in that video. I will link to that video anyway. I'm already linking to that video. And what she did was arrange all of her squares onto fusible interfacing, gave it a press to attach them. I haven't got any of that, so I just did a whole lot of hand running stitch with 2 strands of embroidery thread on there to hold all the pieces. But obviously when this is bent up, you're still getting gappage there, which I don't want. So I could stitch it like this again, but with my pale blue that I've got in the machine now, and I'm sure that would be fine. I do kind of need to go along the edges of these zigzags as well, so this time I've arranged the little half square triangles to be in a chevron format, so I might still have to do that with zigzag. But to do these lines in between, I'm going to try what I saw Kate So doing. So what she did was, once she'd got all of her pieces ironed on, she folded the rows together like this and stitched along there with a narrow seam. I think it was just like really narrow, like eighth of an inch, less than 0.5 centimetre. Basically as narrow as I can get it. And then folded it back like that. I did the same all the way down each of the rows. And then did the same thing with the seams going this way. And it ended up quite kind of bulky looking, even though she was only using like an iron-on interfacing. And this is probably a bit a bit fatter than that, so it might end up too bulky and it might end up spoiling the lines out of my chevrons. I don't know, I might end up wishing I'd just done something like this. I kind of feel like I want to try it, so I think that's what I'm going to do, and it will bring the size in quite a lot. It'll come out smaller than this, so I'm going to give that a go. But first I'm going to stitch this on with the zigzag. Right, I finished stitching all the joins together with zigzag. I quite like that pale blue on there. Cut a square of that underwater print, slightly larger, and I've stitched this lengthways along there. I'm going to use my handy turning tool to make this a little bit easier. I need to plug my iron in again and give that a press, and then I will arrange this loop inside here. I think I'll maybe do it on a corner. Just leave the ends sticking out a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Stitch all the way around, leave a little opening in one of the straight edges that I can close up afterwards when I've stuffed it. I don't need to add an awful lot of stuffing. It's only a little mini kind of pincushion, or even it could just be like a bag charm or something really. But it's quite nice if it's got purpose, isn't it? So I'm going to get my iron out and press that strip before I put it in there, I think. So it's going to be easier. And then I'll stitch around and then we'll see what that looks like. And then I'm going to start this. I am going to give it a go, I think. I might just go over first and zigzag along these edges and then do the folding thing, just use a normal straight stitch. If it works, it's a much easier way of handling these triangles than trying to stitch them together individually. But we'll see, we'll see. It just might be that this wadding I've used is too thick, and I'd be really annoyed because I do love the look of that. Hey ho, wish me luck, I'm going in. Right, fingers crossed I've left enough enough of a turning hole here. You can see I've stitched all around there and I've just left my turning here. Before I turn it through, I'm going to cut across the corners. Trim some of these edges away a little bit. Can't trim it too much there because I need to be able to turn that edge under to stitch my opening closed. Okay, now, important part of the process, keep everything crossed. That's come out a bit strange actually. Putting that there on the corner hasn't worked very well. Oh, I'm not doing well today, am I? It's come out in a really strange way. I might have to turn it through and do that again. I thought that would work okay, but it really hasn't. I think it maybe will have to go on a flat edge, which means I've got to turn it out and do that bit again. Okay, I'll be back when I've redone it. Okay, I've redone that. I've stuffed it. Amazing how much stuffing went in there. I needed it to be fairly firm, and I've just finished closing up that hole. And I thought what would look quite cute is to put a little wooden button right in the centre of this. I think that would be a nice little finishing touch. And I might also go all around the outside just with a neat, neat as I ever get, whip stitch, just as a decorative element. It's subtle because the colours are quite coordinated, but it's a little bit of subtle details, quite nice. So yeah, I might go through and do that afterwards, just like that. Just make it a little bit extra secure, because if this did get used a lot as a pincushion, or if it's rattling about or not attached to the side of a bag or whatever, it might get quite a bit of wear. So yeah, I really like that. I might just encourage this shape a little bit. And I can put a split ring through there so that it will attach to a handbag or whatever. I could put a lobster clip depending on what I decide to do with it in the end. Okay, let's just get a bit more thread and stitch this button on. I think I'll just start with a small knot in the middle, which will be hidden by the button itself. Small anchoring stitch, go back through the loop. There we go, that should be alright now. I can start stitching my button on. I could just stitch it on like that, but I quite like the idea of pulling it through so it makes a dimple in the other side. So I think I'm going to do that. So this needle will go all the way through. I want to make sure that comes up pretty much in the centre. Through again, make sure I come out in the same place. Quite like that little dimple effect, I just think it looks cute. And I'll just go back and forth 3 or 4 times like this to make sure it's really safely on there. There we go, it's really nice and taut now as well. Yeah, I think that's really sweet. I'm just going to come up now at the back of the button. Pop it round a couple of times. So that's as safe as houses now. Through to one of the outside edges. I can use it up with the decorative top stitching. The needle's a bit short for this. Should have used a longer needle for this bit. There we go. So yeah, all I've got to do now is finish that whip stitching around the outside edge, and I'm all done with that. I think that's really tinky. I really like it. There we go. That's all done now. I've done that over stitching all the way around. Wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea, you know. Definitely, I like the rustic look, but you know, it's a personal taste thing, isn't it? But very happy with how it's turned out in the end. I was so when I was still working on this yesterday, I thought, oh no, I'm going to have my first fail with these boxes. I've ruined everything. Actually, I'm quite happy with it all now so far, but let's see how we get on with this. Right, I've done that zigzagging now. I've not made them too close together. I don't think they need to be super close together. That's enough to stop them gapping when I fold it there. So now I'm going to fold over this top row, fold that over. It naturally sort of folds where that join is. And I'm going to do a line of stitching as close as I can get to the edge all along there. There we go. It's pretty close, about 1/8 of an inch, 3mm. So now when I fold it back, it's like that. And of course I've lost the point there to my chevron, but what I'm going to do once I've done all these ones across, I'll be doing all these ones, and what I'm hoping is that will bring the point back. In my head, that's what's going to happen, but we'll soon find out. But it's not proving too difficult to stitch through at the moment. I'm hoping this is going to work. It might be more difficult is where I've got to fold this way and I have to stitch over that. I don't know how well my machine is going to cope with that. So yeah, I'm going to carry on and do all of these ones down here. Okay, I've done those. I feel like it's gone a bit crooked in the middle there. I don't think I've been as accurate as I could have been. I think I've gone off here, so I might just do that little bit again. Maybe that will be enough to bring it back to looking straight. Yeah, I must have just missed a bit there, I think. So the next step anyway is to then fold the vertical lines this way, which is going to be a little bit more tricky. And again, stitch a seam down there. I'm just a bit worried that I'm going to struggle to go over these bumps, but we'll soon find out. And again, stitch it quite close to the join, to the fold, sorry, yeah. And then we'll see how we're looking. I'll have to still back and add a binding like this. Right, well, that was an interesting experiment. You can see it's kind of worked. I didn't enjoy sewing over these lumpy bits on the machine. It might be interesting to try it again with just the thin iron-on interfacing, because it would be possible to be more accurate then. I think this is usable. I think it'll be the same as with this. Once I put a backing on and a binding, that'll look much more presentable. It's going to come out almost exactly the same size as well. So I will do that this evening, and I think that'll be fine. Overall, I've still got these pieces left, which I'll throw in with the other scraps now, because I don't think I'll get any more leftover projects done before the next box arrives. So these are all of the leftover projects that's wanted to curl up. These are all of the leftover projects from this month. Let's see if I can manage to get a little thumbnail from this. Really love that little dinky pin cushion, which is a bit of an afterthought really, but yeah, really happy with that. So yeah, very happy with these, because these are bonuses really. The main star of the show is the quilt block. So to get these as an extra is brilliant, and I'm accumulating quite a pile of scrappy leftovers now that I can do a project at the end of the year. So yeah, I've also learned how to do a reasonably good job with the binding, and I'm very happy about that too. So that was just a couple of ways to use up awkward triangular leftovers. I hope you enjoyed that and maybe found it interesting. What do you do with your leftover triangles? If you're a quilter, I'm sure you end up with lots of them. Triangles and strips, isn't it, is the main kind of shapes that you end up with left over. Don't forget that if you'd like to join us in September for an Arty Farty Crafty Day at Stitch Kit HQ in Worcester here in the UK, you're very welcome to join us. There are only 40 in-person places. I don't know how many are left. They were going quite fast at the beginning, so yeah, I don't know. I haven't had an update actually. I don't know how many are left, but I will put a link to that. It will take you to the events page, and then you have to choose whether you want to come in person or participate from home. So then they would send your kits to you. All the details are there on the website as well. I start to get very excited. I've been busy this week starting to plan the sort of finer details of the timetable and the video tutorials that will be included as part of the event, and will be available afterwards as well. There's a lot to plan to make it the best possible day we can. It's going to be brilliant. I'm so looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really fun activity, and it will be so lovely to meet up with some people in person that I haven't met in person before. We've just as well set up in our Discord, we've just set up a virtual craft room in there so that people will be able to get together there if they're joining in from home, and we can pop in and visit during the course of the event as well, which will be really nice. So yeah, lots to look forward to, lots to plan. As this video goes out, it will just be a few days. I think this will go out at the end of the first week of March. I'm getting ahead of myself because I've got so much going on in March. So it'll only be a few days now until the March Quilt of the Month boxes start going out. Also, by the time this video goes out, I will have done the announcement about the new swap. There's a new swap starting on the 1st of April. Details of that will have gone out by the time you see this video as well. There's just so much going on. I've had to actually start using my electronic planner thing again, because I just can't keep track of everything. Okay, I'm going to stop waffling now and crack on. You can see it's dark outside again. I've been going all afternoon. And have a lovely day. Thanks very much again for joining me, and I will see you again really soon. Bye.